Hey there, Vikings faithful. You are listening to the Purple People podcast. It is the off-season in the NFL, but we never have an off-season here at the podcast. We're with you each and every week, except for that one time that I wasn't, but that's why I have Adam Carlson there to cover for me. What's up, Adam?
Not too much. Just sitting here ready to talk a little bit about some Vikings football.
Me too.
I do enjoy Vikings football.
I do too. On Sunday, Walking Dead Sundays are going on right now, but as soon as that's over with, it's like I'm really going to be jonesing for some Vikings football. Something to fill the time.
Yeah, it's going to be bad. But good thing we got the Combine and free agency coming up soon. But we're going to talk a little bit more about that in a little bit here. But first, I want to welcome everyone to episode number 89 of the Purple People podcast. I've titled this episode, Juwanna Manziel.
Yeah,
I don't know if you guys have seen the movie Juwanna, man.
I've never seen it, but I've heard of it.
It is a piece of art, I've got to say.
Is it as good as the movie Pootie Tang?
I like it more than Pootie Tang. But let's go into the quick hits, and let's talk about the first one. This is one that kind of surprised me to come out this early in the season, but I'm glad it is before the draft, and it's John Carlson saying that he is not planning on retiring, that he will be in camp and he will be ready to play. His heart's still in football and he wants to play.
He will be in camp and he will be ready to play, assuming he takes a pay cut. Because I don't think there's any way that they continue to pay him what they're paying him, given his injury-prone history and whatnot.
But the team has no leverage to make him take a pay cut.
Well, then cut him.
Well, then they're handing him $3 million to do nothing.
Yeah, we pretty much did that for the first couple seasons if he was here already. So, either take a pay cut or just leave. That's my thoughts on John Carlson. I know you're more of a John Carlson fan than I am, but I just...
Mathematically, it doesn't make sense to release him, though. That's the problem.
I don't care about mathematically. I don't think... He's not worth much, in my opinion. He's just a guy. John Carlson is just a guy. You can find pretty much anyone to replace him on the field. He's had a few decent stretches when Kyle Rudolph was out, but by and large, just a guy on the field.
Yeah, but I think he's got potential to be more than that.
Yeah.
And then he has shown that he can be that guy on occasions that when number ones and number twos are covered, he can take over. He showed that in the Redskins game that I was at and at a couple other games. So don't count out John Carlson. I mean, I know he's got the history of injuries, but I'm excited to see him come back to camp and play.
Yeah, I'm not.
Speaking of guys coming back and playing, Christian Ponder will be back, and he's the only quarterback on the roster right now. But Vikings general manager Rick Spielman hinted in a recent interview that he has been blaming Bill Musgrave for Ponder's failure in the offensive system.
I think pretty much everyone blames Bill Musgrave. Well, Christian Ponder as well, too. But it's pretty easy to blame things on Bill Musgrave, especially when he's no longer with the organization. So,
exactly. It's easy to point fingers at the guy that's not there anymore.
Precisely.
And now for the awkward moment of the show. Details have come out about the Darren Sharper sexual assault case. Man, they're scary. Drugs involved, stuff like that. Some really sketchy behavior and really sickening stuff. And I hope that these accusations are not true. And that Darren Sharper did not do this stuff. But if they are, man, those are disgusting things. And I hope that whatever happened, but...
We'll just assume it happened in Green Bay and New Orleans. And he was a model citizen when he was in Minnesota, right?
I have no idea.
That's my analysis on that one.
Looks like Minnesota will have the fourth most salary cap to spend going into free agency this year. That means they should be able to make a splash and get a big name or two. I know that Vikings faithful and Vikings fans out there love when the Vikings get the big name guys.
It's good.
The Greg Jennings signing last year was huge with everybody. They loved that. Bringing a big name to the squad always helps get notoriety out there. It helps get some of the night games. But another thing that does that is winning, and let's hope that these free agents that the Vikings bring in help the team win.
That's good that they've got, what do you say, fourth most money in the NFL to spend in free agency. That's good because this team has a lot of holes that it needs to fill offensively and defensively, and like we've stated numerous times, they're going to have to do this through free agency, through the draft, through looking at guys in the Canadian League and just wherever they can find talent to bring in for training camp. That's what they're going to do. So it's good that they have the money to go out there and look and bring in the players that are the best fit for the team, hopefully.
Absolutely. I know a lot of Vikings fans out there are interested in Texas A&M quarterback Johnny Manziel. I think Kyle West is one of them.
I would love to see him in Minnesota, but I've already gotten over the idea of him being in Minnesota because it's not going to happen.
Well, he, in an interview, warned the Houston Texans not to pass on him in this year's draft and that it would be the biggest mistake in their franchise's history.
That's awesome.
That's not awesome.
No, that's awesome, Adam.
No.
Why don't you like about that?
That's a college kid with a huge ego that hasn't proved anything in the NFL.
No, Adam, that's a kid who's got confidence. You know what?
That's a kid who's cocky and arrogant.
The thing that Christian Ponder lacks? Confidence. That's what Johnny Manziel has. Christian Ponder would be like, yeah, you can go ahead.
So it'd be better if Ponder confidently threw interceptions?
Ponder would be like, nah, go ahead, you can pass on me. Go ahead, pass on me in the draft. I don't care. Johnny Manziel's like, no, you know what? I am the best.
He's not.
And that's what you want from a quarterback. You want your quarterback to feel like he is the best player on the field. You don't think Brett Favre thought that? Brett Favre thought he was the best player on the field. Christian Ponder didn't think that. That's why Christian Ponder sucks. He lacks confidence.
I love confidence. I hate cockiness and arrogance. Yeah? There's a line, and Manziel passes that line to me.
Nah, he's fine. He's not coming to Minnesota. There's no way. I don't see any scenario in which he ends up being a Viking. He's not going to fall. We're not going to trade up for him. But I like it.
Well, Manziel thinks he's going number one, so I don't know.
See any problem with what he said. No different than Randy Moss back in the day. I'm going to tear up.
Yeah, and that's cockiness and arrogance, too.
Yeah, and look at Randy Moss's rookie season.
And look at the rest of Randy Moss's career.
Hall of Fame.
Yeah, his first couple years and a couple years there in New England Hall of Fame. When you forget Oakland and the second stint with the Vikings and whatever happened down with the Titans or whatever. Ugh. What a messy mess that became.
I don't agree with you at all on that one. Randy Moss has had a Hall of Fame career. You look at his...
He's had some Hall of Fame caliber seasons.
Career, Adam. You're wrong on that one. There's just... You look at his numbers, you can stack him up with pretty much anyone. He ranks at the top of every major category for receiving.
Yeah, I don't know. His time in Oakland really hurt him.
Nah, I don't think so. That's Oakland. That's his scapegoat. His scapegoat right there is it's Oakland. It's the Oakland Raiders.
There's no excuses, man. You play at a high level, you got to play at a high level, especially if you got the mouth for it. And Johnny Manziel is one of those guys that if he doesn't come out at the combine and play lights out, he already delayed throwing at his pro day, wants to set up his own pro day. The confidence of this guy, why don't he just host an hour-long special on ESPN and be like, watch me throw a football in my gym shorts for 3 hours?
Yeah.
No.
Go watch his game tape. You don't need to see Johnny Manziel throw at a pro day. You don't need to just go watch his game tape. You can see what he's got all that he needs on game film.
You realize that several scouts have looked at Johnny Manziel and said that a lot of his games last year made it look like he was undraftable, right?
Yeah. Did you watch him play in his final game?
I try not to wait too much on one game.
Where he single-handedly won the game for them after halftime?
Right, because there were no other players on the field.
Yeah, if you watch that game, there wasn't. That was Johnny Manziel that won that game.
It's not like he's got a top-caliber wide receiver and a top caliber left tackle that might both go in the draft before him.
What's your point?
The point is his team was stacked.
Yeah?
Okay, I don't think you get my point.
No, see, here's the point that I hate with it. I hate when people say, that quarterback, no, he doesn't look good because he had a high-caliber wide receiver on his team. Well, that's pretty much any team in the NFL. Any team in the NFL is going to have at least one go-to target for a wide receiver, whether it's Calvin Johnson or Larry Fitzgerald or Cordero Patterson.
Or whoever's in Oakland or whoever's in...
A.J. Green.
With the Rams. Not every team has those players.
But most NFL receivers are go-to enough that if you're any kind of talent at a quarterback, you're going to make something happen.
Yeah, I'll disagree with you there, too.
You're just not a Johnny Manziel fan, are you, Adam?
I don't mind Johnny Manziel.
Yeah? No, you clearly don't like him. I can tell.
He can make some plays.
Anyway.
I don't like him I don't like his attitude off the field. He's had some good games that make him look really good. He's had some games that make him look bad. And I know that his personality is really a turn on to a lot of Vikings fans, but it's not something that appeals to me. Everybody's got different evaluations of everybody. The same way that every general manager will have different evaluations of players. Come March 11th, which is the opening day for free agency, players can be signed on that date. Negotiations with the players' agents can begin on March 8th. So that's something to look forward to. That's a big date coming up. That has to do with the fourth most salary cap for the Vikings. We should see a splash happening then.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, let's move on to our major topic for this week, and let's talk about the franchise tag.
Yeah, the
franchise tag is something that most players dread.
Mm-hmm.
You can slap a player with this franchise tag, and he is your player for 1 year, no matter what. And he gets paid a lot for that year. But players don't want 1 year with a big contract. They want long contracts, a lot of guaranteed money, multiple years. Players need to set things up for their future and their families' futures. And these kind of tags can really hurt a player's long-term future. They're normally a last-ditch effort by a team to hold on to a player that would want to either escape into free agency or seek that huge long-term deal. So that brings up a good question. Are there any Minnesota Vikings players that are eligible or would make sense to franchise tag?
Well, the clear answer is Charlie Johnson.
Well, Charlie Johnson's already hit the road.
You don't think Charlie Johnson's going to get the franchise tag for the Vikings 2014?
Nah, he's already gone, dude. But there is one player out there that hasn't really been mentioned with the franchise tag a whole lot that might make a little bit of sense.
Oh, who's that?
And that's Jared Allen. Last year, Jared Allen made $17 million with the Vikings. To franchise tag a defensive end this year, it's about $12.5 million.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's a lot of money for a defensive end, but it's less than they've paid him over the past couple of years. So, would the Vikings pay that extra to retain him and not have to look for a defensive end in free agency and not have to match a big offer from Everson Griffin or bring in Michael Johnson or Bennett or some other big-name defensive end and have to pay them a lot of money? I personally think it's not a very good option because I don't like paying him that much money. Anytime you got to put that much money on one player, especially an aging player, it's not a good idea to me. But it's an idea that I'm sure has been thrown around in Minnesota.
Yeah, and I would probably be pretty surprised if they used it on Jared Allen. I guess, in a way, it doesn't really seem like it'd be fair to him, even though that's something that they can do. But you almost just kind of, either they're going to re-sign Jared Allen, or I feel like they should let him go and be able to kind of pick his destiny, where he wants to go at this point. I kind of think that would be the fair thing to do with him. But like you said, that option is on the table. I don't know I'm not a franchise tag expert, but Everson Griffin, I would imagine, if they're not able to work it out, maybe I could see them going that direction, wanting to keep him for another year, like he's.
They're not going to slap down $12.5 million a year for him.
Yeah,
now.
You never know. I like I said, I don't really know that much about how franchise tag works. So,
but if you notice how Minnesota Vikings have used their franchise tag in the past, normally they put the tag on the player while they're negotiating a long-term contract with them, just so they can't negotiate with other teams. Normally it's with a player that has interest in staying and is willing to work out a deal with the Vikings. Like Chad Greenway was the last person to have that happen, I believe. Chad Greenway was franchise tagged, and they signed him to a long-term deal before they had to pay him the money from the franchise tag. So it's not really something that would hurt the Vikings in a long-term deal, especially if they want to sign a player. But I don't believe that any players will get hit with the franchise tag for the Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah, I don't either. Now, like you said, maybe that's an interesting scenario where they could potentially use the tag on Everson while they're, like you said, working on some kind of contract with him. I don't know. Like I said, I don't really know how all that stuff, the ins and outs of how all that stuff works. But if they're able to do that and then end up, whatever the best fit for the team is, I really want to see him back with the team. So whatever they could do to keep him, I would be okay with that.
Absolutely.
And there's really not anyone else that it makes all that much sense for them to use it on.
No.
Anyway.
No, especially not at these prices. I mean, neither Matt Castle or Josh Freeman are worth $16 million a year. And you can thank Matt Ryan, Tony Romo, Aaron Rodgers, those guys for that number being that insane. With those huge contracts they have. But that's all I have for this week. We got a short show this week. Is there anything you'd like to add, Kyle?
Well, we were used, like you said, Spielman came out and said that they're going to retain Christian Ponder through 2014, and a lot of people kind of got up in arms, probably rightfully so. Everyone kind of wants to see Ponder gone out of Minnesota. I would be okay to never see him suit up in purple again as well. But I think it kind of got a little bit taken out of context, and people, I think, connected two dots that are kind of a ways away. They don't have any other quarterbacks under contract right now.
Right.
So they almost have to keep Ponder because you don't know what's going to happen with Castle. You don't know what's going to happen with the draft. You got to have somebody. They got to pay him that money. It's the last year of his deal. They got to pay him that money anyway. So for the time being, it actually does make sense. Now, it's not like Spielman said, we're keeping Christian Ponder and he's going to be our starter on week 1 of the 2014 regular season. That's not what he said. He just said he's going to be on the team.
Well, if the regular season started right now, they wouldn't have much of an
Well, yeah,
option.
you'd be the only guy under contract, so yeah, they would have to start him. But they're going to, you listen to what Norv Turner has said, they want to bring in a couple other quarterbacks. They probably want to bring in a younger quarterback, whether that's through whatever means they have. They're going to do that. And Ponder is going to be probably, I don't know. We're just speculating at this point because there's no other quarterbacks on the roster, so it doesn't even hardly make sense to guess where he would be at on the depth chart at this point.
And let's be honest, right now is football politics time. They're going to try to pump up players. Especially ones that might be seen as valuable. And let's be honest, Christian Ponder, a lot of people don't want him as a starting quarterback. But would he be a terrible backup? No. He could be an excellent player to fill in or to sit behind a rookie, especially even for just 1 year. And I know that's not a role that he'll want to play, but it's a role that he might have to play.
And if you look at some of the other scenarios that are out there for the Vikings in terms of bringing in another quarterback, if you look, I know a lot of people are vocal about maybe they go after Michael Vick. And you can easily counter that with Michael Vick has had one healthy season, I think, his entire career. So if they sign him, you have to have someone that can play as your backup underneath him, because Michael Vick is going to get hurt. So that would be...
Right, and then you got people talking about Kirk Cousins and Ryan Mallett. Both guys, in my opinion, are unproven. Kirk Cousins came off a poor season last year. He had a terrible turnover to touchdown ratio. And these are guys that would be nothing more than stopgap / projects at this point. I know what Vikings fans want, and what I want, and probably what Kyle wants. We want the Vikings to draft a quarterback, develop him, and be their franchise quarterback. Be their guy.
What a lot of us want is we want the best of both worlds. We want a young quarterback who can come in and be that guy for the next 10 years, but we also want Brett Favre in 2009 at the exact same time. So you want someone who's going to be our young franchise quarterback for 10 years, who's going to come in and start, and we're going to be dominant week 1. And that is really, really hard to come by. Like that.
Those are big expectations.
Yeah. So in the time being, we just have to hope for the best, I guess.
Absolutely. Yep. So we'll be watching free agency and the draft, all that with bated breath to see what's going to happen with our beloved Vikings at that quarterback position. It's got to be the most talked about position that the Vikings have, although there might be bigger holes on defense. But we'll see.
At the same time, though, you look at just the fact that we have one quarterback under contract right now. That is scary. That is really scary.
Especially when it's a quarterback that everyone seems to dislike.
Yeah. But you never know. And we'll end the show here after this statement. But like you said, Bill Musgrave was basically worthless. So you never know what could happen with Ponder having someone like Norv Turner teaching him what he knows. Maybe, just maybe, they can get something out of him. I doubt it.
But what do they expect fans to say? Or what do fans expect Norv Turner to say? Is he going to come out and say, no, well, I know Ponder's the only quarterback on our roster, but he sucks real bad, and he's not going to amount to anything?
Actually, that would be legitimately pretty awesome. Wouldn't it?
But it's not going to happen.
Wouldn't it just be awesome to be like, no, you know what? He's worthless. But no, like you said, they're not going to do that because they want to. No. If nothing else, they're trying to artificially inflate the market so that they can trade.
Absolutely. The free agent market of quarterbacks isn't good. Yeah. So they're going to do what they can. But that's all we have for this week. I'd like to thank everyone for listening. Remember to check out Twitter. That's our @PurplePeoplePod, and that's where you can talk to Kyle West, the most friendly and handsome man on Twitter. I believe he earned that trophy, right?
No, I don't think so.
I must have confused you with someone else. You can catch me on the Facebook page, Purple People Podcast. I'm there when I'm not writing my articles for the Viking Age at thevikingage.com. Check out my stuff. Read it. I'm doing draft profiles right now, so if you're not familiar with a lot of the guys going into the draft, check them out. I'm going to be doing one. I tried to do 2 a night. So check them out. Let me know what you guys think. And thanks again for listening. And remember, stay classy, Minnesota.